Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy, technology, principles, applications, and more. This video is about magnetic energy and atheism and the Big Bang. These topics, I think they connect enough in the magnetic energy model that I can just try to knock this video out with both of them included. And now, just a quick disclaimer, this in no way is this video meant to try to sway anyone from their religious beliefs or their spiritual beliefs. Of course, that would not be the purpose of this video whatsoever. And I just want to make that clear. And this technology, assuming that it comes out and is worldwide and its presence is for everyone. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, your spiritual, your religious beliefs. Now, with that said, I want to just touch on atheism just a tiny bit because this goes so far back, hundreds of years, where for some reason, and I think empiricism is part of the reason is that with the planet being in a low vibratory rate and a very restricted level of consciousness and awareness of what the universal processes are, that beliefs such as atheism tend to flourish. And then, of course, science being connected to atheism, like in order to be a scientist, there's this stereotype. And we know it's not true because there's plenty of scientists that have spiritual and religious beliefs, but that for some reason science is connected with atheism. And I don't really take that much issue with that because I know there's been a lot of damage done by religious beliefs over the centuries. And so that's not really the point of this, isn't really to debate that. But it is to say, though, something happened with scientific beliefs and scientific models that started like, okay, so let's throw away this idea of God because we can't examine God in the laboratory. We can't say whether that's right or wrong. And if you think about that idea, then you're not scientific, basically. But then something else, though, happened with that. And as the 1900s started going in and the etheric model was discarded or disbanded, and then Einsteinian Newtonian physics started taking over. This idea of anything that is not empirical, anything that is of a interdimensional nature, and that, of course, you know where I'm going with this. The etheric model it became disregarded, basically, and so any kind of higher dimensional beings, any kind of higher dimensional guidance, any kind of spiritual model that you could say could fit into a scientific paradigm, all of that was starting to be discarded, and that becomes a real problem in the magnetic energy model. So let's assume that magnetic energy technology comes out in the world and becomes pronounced in the world. One of the first things that I would like to do, if that even matters, one of the first things I would like to do is have these magnetic energy chambers, what they are, they're energetic chambers, and have those throughout the world so that every scientist, every engineer, every government official, every politician, every religious leader, and anyone else who wants to do this can go into a magnetic energy chamber and very safely in a controlled environment be guided out of their bodies and taken on an astral journey, if you will, or an interdimensional journey, just a quick tour of some of the universe that we call our visible universe and our interdimensional processes, so that these scientists, these astronomers, all of these government officials, these politicians, religious leaders could all get an idea and see for their own eyes how the universe is actually working and like what's going on. And so, mark my words, we're going to do that, okay? And anyone that wants that journey is going to be able to take that journey, that astral projection journey. So, the Big Bang is one of these completely, just to be kind in the kindest way I can without making this an R-rated video, a completely ludicrous scientific idea and theory that is this desperate attempt to try to explain an origin of the universe from an extremely limited perspective. But as soon as you start factoring in interdimensional processes, etheric processes, magnetic flow rates, vortices, magnetic pulsing, and all these different unending variety of neutral magnetic structures that can literally explain everything from subatomic processes up to intergalactic processes. The Big Bang not only becomes completely ludicrous, the idea falls apart. There is no need for an explosion of any kind, an expansion of space, which space and time, those are great mathematical constructs. Don't get me wrong, they work great in math, but in reality, those things don't really exist. Now, there's sequential events that take place due to magnetic pulsing and magnetic signature, resonant signatures that we have as part of this dimension. But here's the thing. Science has to start looking at what we call the physical universe as just one little part of what's happening. And what's happening around this universe is so interdimensional that, first of all, there's no limit to what can be created in what we think of as the physical universe, because the energy, the magnetic energy, the neutral etheric energy that converts and gets created into what we call matter can happen endlessly. Not only that, but that energy exchange is so high and so constant across the universe that keeps our dimension, what we think of as our physical dimension, intact and sustainable. That process is ongoing. It hasn't stopped. Creation has not stopped. That creator force that's behind all of this hasn't stopped at all. It's still going. The universe is still growing. It's still expanding. And here's a quick little analogy. Imagine like a little kid in his fort with a little plastic telescope that doesn't even have a lens in it. And he's looking out, he's looking out at the world thinking he sees the universe. That's kind of like what we're doing right now on planet Earth. I mean, we have Hubble and we have all kinds of great satellite technology and telescopic technology and everything. But we're still using technology that looks at a very limited spectrum, what we think of as the electromagnetic spectrum, and we are just seeing still a drop in the bucket. What we think of as the visible universe, what has been tracked as a universe, what we are calling the universe, is still just a drop in the bucket of what's actually available. And when you have magnetic technology and magnetic energy telescopes and magnetic energy vehicles, you start to realize that the speed of light has almost no bearing on reality, and it certainly isn't the fastest thing that can move out there. And when you start moving at a nearly infinite velocity, you start realizing how big the universe truly is, and it's so much bigger than what astronomers have mapped out up to this point. They're just barely scratching the surface, and part of that is because of the restriction of technology and light speed and everything. So even if you were to consider that the Big Bang is an expansion of an explosion of interdimensional energy into our dimension, that chaotic response or that chaotic event is completely unnecessary. And as soon as science delves into the subatomic magnetic resonance signatures that are behind everything, they will see that a chaotic process is completely unnecessary. That the beginning of a new galaxy, the beginning of a star, takes place at an interdimensional magnetic response process. Once that flow rate starts happening, that is the spawning of a new galactic system or a new solar system, whatever it is. That's the spawning of it. And that can happen throughout the energy field. There's no space. Everywhere you go, there's always energy, 100% of the time. And it's that interdimensional energy that then connects with what we call our dimension at a vibratory rate. It's all magnetic energy. It's all etheric energy that's been either transmuted into magnetic energy or converted into some sort of signature or polarity that manifests, and then we end up seeing just the physical process of the physical manifestation of that. So, yeah, the Big Bang is completely unnecessary from that model. And once you realize, and once science realizes this, and this is part of what that fun little out-of-body experiment would do with scientists and religious leaders and politicians around the world, is as soon as they got out into the universe and they started experiencing interdimensional processes, they would experience the most high level of consciousness imaginable that is essentially permeates all of existence. And they would start to realize that and this is going to be documented, so the subatomic magnetic resonance signatures are encoded. They have an incredibly high level of encoding in them that goes very deep, very, very deep, and that enables that energy to move through multiple vortices, through multiple systems, to continue a process that it goes from source, goes through all these processes and back to source. Now, part of that is renewal. So that creates this renewal of energy throughout the universe, and that's why entropy is completely ridiculous. And once that subatomic process is completely mapped out and realized, science will come to the conclusion that this is a highly guided process and in our physical dimension. It's a highly orchestrated event that's happening. And so once you start realizing that all these cosmological phenomena such as redshift will all be explained within a magnetic energy model, that makes perfect sense. And all those incredible inconsistencies with the Big Bang Theory that have been documented over decades, those will all be explained within the magnetic energy model because they fit and they make sense. There's so many contradictions to that Big Bang idea, and that's because it's completely ludicrous. The age of the universe is not only incredibly difficult to map out, even from a magnetic energy point of view, but it is beyond time. So imagine the oldest thing that you could possibly imagine. And we can get, our imaginations can be out of control, basically out to infinity. And that's essentially what you're looking at for this type of universe, the physical universe that we think of as our universe. It is beyond ageless. And this idea of trying to limit it to 6 billion years from a magnetic energy model is actually, it's really almost just as ludicrous as saying it's 6,000 years old. There is no age on it, and once it is documented, the subatomic reactions that are happening and how they're encoded and how the process is renewed, everything will come together, and it will, once you get into a higher dimension, and with the technology, we will be able to explore higher dimensions, we will quickly see that there is no age that we can really put on the universe. It's far too old to even express, and it's been ongoing outside of time, and it will continue to do so. And it continues to grow and it continues to expand because as the energy, it may expand and contract and go through cycles, but the energy that we have in the physical universe comes from a higher dimension that is essentially an endless amount of energy. So, atheism, I don't know, it is what it is, and it's one thing to say you're not going to believe in some sort of religious God, but at the same time, science will get to the evolution. They will go through the evolutionary process of recognizing that there is not only tremendous interdimensional processes that are taking place that are unseen, there's higher levels of consciousness, there's an extraordinary number of higher level beings that contribute to all kinds of workings with this model, with this universe. And then the idea of the Big Bang is, in the magnetic energy model, it's beyond ludicrous. And that will be proven along with a whole other host of things with an expansion of consciousness and with this technology coming into popularity. And so with that, I will see you next time.